Remember to subscribe for daily top Reddit stories. Camp counselors of Reddit, what is the most not safe for work thing you've seen happen at camp? I was a camp counselor a few years ago at a camp for foster kids. One week a counselor caught a camper, M15, in bed with another camper, F14. The room they were in was tiny, and the 4 other girls in the bunks were awake and cheering them on. They were loud enough to wake the counselor, who pulled the male camper out of bed. The guy had a Ziploc bag around his dick, held in place by a rubber band. I was both impressed at their dedication to trying to have safe sex, and appalled at how terribly they went about it. My favorite was a 13-year-old boy at camp out. Both his hands were in his sleeping bag and he was clearly masturbating. His counselor called a hand check where you have to display both hands in the air. He only raised one hand. The counselor asked for both hands and he replied, "Give me 4 minutes." Saw a girl give a guy a hand job under a towel. On the bus. On the bus filled with children. On the bus filled with children going to a Christian camp. This summer I walked in on 5 15-16-year-olds touching ball sacks together while comparing testicle size. That was a fun incident report to fill out. Edit. For the record, the incident report doesn't get them in trouble. It's more of a thing to protect me and the other counselors if a kid were to tell their parents. This actually happened earlier today. I work at a summer day camp at a local park with kids in kindergarten age group. Interesting gross things happen almost every day with kids at that age, but today's event took the cake. Basically, this 6-year-old boy found a dead bird in the grass and decided it would be fun to pick it up and smear the blood and guts all over his hands and arms. After doing that, he started chasing around other campers to try to share his bird entrails on them. I had the pleasure of catching the gore-covered kid, ripping the bird's ravaged carcass out of his hands, and spending half an hour in the bathroom getting him and myself cleaned up. When I asked him why the heck he picked up a dead animal, he said that he thought it was something awesome to do. Edit. Thanks for the gold, kind stranger. Just goes to show that comments about 6-year-olds savaging animals are totally the way to go. Counselors having a threesome in an empty cabin next to the bathrooms. Finally a chance to post this. One year I was working a regular camp and had a lead counselor run over to another counselor and I to say look in the first stall of the boys' bathroom. We left our kids with our age group's female counselors and ran. By the time we made it, a crowd of counselors had formed around the toilet. Contained inside was by far the mightiest, largest turd I have ever seen in my life. Easily a diameter of 3 inches and long enough to be far down into the toilet while also freewheeling out of the surface of the water. No campers were told about this. A few days later a camper asked me if we were running to the bathroom the other day because of a giant piece of poop and claimed to be the conjurer of it. I was mortified. I was working at a young life camp in Colorado probably 12 years ago. I think it was the first day right around dinner time and a girl just up and died. Her heart just stopped. She was sitting talking with her friends and fell over. It was incredibly intense and very sad for a lot of people and tons of people were there to witness it. It's not the most scandalous of camp stories, but it was certainly pretty fucked up and put a weird vibe on the rest of the week. I was a counselor at a day camp. We took kids to the zoo. A kid shoved his thumb fully inside a petting zoo goat's butt. I asked him why and he just shrugged, looking at me like I'm the idiot. I felt bad for the goat, but it was still standing next to him, so maybe it was into it. We heard rumors about the cabin next to us one week at camp. It was a game called Monkey and it involved one of the kids getting naked and putting a sock over his dick. He'd then swing around the room using the bed frames and whatnot, making monkey noises. To this day I'm not sure what the game was. I'm guessing you won if you didn't get raped. After reading about all the camp counselors having sex with each other, I've decided I'm gonna be a camp counselor. I had 2 twin brothers that were very handsy with each other. One day one of them came to me crying because his brother had bit his tongue after he tried kissing him. Had 6-year-old campers at a day camp. After swimming, found 2 of them facing each other naked in the locker room. They were standing there, hitting each other's erect penises and making the boing boing sounds. I was a day camp counselor during the summers in high school. I watched another counselor eat herself out after smoking by the gully. My 16-year-old self couldn't look away. Also, generally, the counselors are fucking like rabbits. I knew this guy at camp. He was maybe 13. He got 2 girls pregnant. Man. 2 girls pregnant. Edit. It's a reference from the movie Stealing Harvard. Now stop messaging me asking what happened to him and the girls. Didn't witness, but I had 2 lids. Just finished grade 9. Sneak off into the forest late at night. And the girl gave the boy a blowjob. The girl confessed to another girl, who told me, when she was approached she denied it, but the boy fully admitted to it. Edit 1. LIT stands for Leader in Training. It's when a camper isn't old enough to be a counselor but wants to learn how to become one. Edit 2. The camp was in Canada. No, I won't say which one because I'm still really close with many staff there and think of the director as a great friend. Edit 3. Stop guessing camps at risk of damaging their reputations. If you want to guess your camp, you're welcome to inbox me. Edit 4. Holy horny teens. Batman. Apparently there's a lot of camps this has happened at. There was this Asian kid named Kevin who went to the bathroom to take a shit, but there was pee on the toilet seat, so he started to cry and then took a shit on the floor because he really had to go. Camper who spoke no English got a nasty head wound from a nail on the cabin rafters that he face dived into. Also so much counselor sex. I was a camp counselor years ago, and while I don't recall really seeing anything not safe for work with the kids, I can tell you almost everything I saw with the counselors was not safe for work. I couldn't walk into a room without seeing people fucking. Intense. On top of the staff washing machines. In the general store. Parents, if you send your kids to camp, just remember, literally the only thing those counselors are thinking about is fucking each other. I worked at a sleepaway Girl Scout camp with all female counselors and staff where a solid 60% were lesbian. There was a strictly enforced no more fucking in the bushes rule, because so many counselors would go at it anywhere they could find. Saw a 13-year-old fucking a 12-year-old, and the position they were in. How did they learn that? Edit. And the position was the butt or china. Considering this is a position I believe is most likely to cause pregnancy and all due to gravity, I have no idea how or why this was the position they chose or how they knew about it. I work in a building that hosts a camp for people with autism and other mental handicaps. A guy with something was really attached to his counselor, a girl. He really liked her and asked her out almost every hour of the week. She finally said no, I have a boyfriend or something along those lines. He got really mad and stripped down and freaked out. He peed and pooped all over the floor. When other counselors were trying to calm him down, he ran over to a fire extinguisher box and smashed his head into the glass. He had big chunks of glass in his face and forehead, bleeding everywhere. We were told as building managers to stay clear of the floor he was on. They would clean it all up. It was odd. Another story. When he left the building, we also found a sort of poop shrine. He would poop in the closet and then mold underwear to it. He must have used a whole can of Febreze on the thing a day because we never knew about it. Couldn't smell anything. I saw one of the campers using hedge trimmers without the proper gloves. I gave him the gloves, and then his gardening service activity became safe for work. I worked as a counselor at a camp for adults with disabilities. All my campers were in their 20s, late 30s. One night one of my campers was masturbating loudly and furiously, because we all slept in one giant room. Her noises were waking everyone up. It was so distracting that I had to give her the masturbation chat the next day and also explain it to all my campers privately. Boy, what a fun day that was. Ex-counselor here. Our camp has a thing where one night all the people who had been there for 3 years go out and do crazy shit in the fields by the camp. Needless to say, I saw a lot of breasts. But other than that and smoking weed, nothing really big happened. Apparently in years before, some of the abandoned cabins were used during that night for rowdy sex parties with lots of alcohol involved. This was back in like the 1990s, where I guess the upper staff were a lot more lenient. I worked at the camp in 2010, so I guess I missed the really interesting stuff. It was interesting to bring up the topic to my boss who worked at the camp as a counselor at that time and see him get all red-faced and not know what I was talking about. Too long. Didn't read. A wild night once a year, used to a crazy sex party, but not we just flash each other and smoke. I'm late to this so this probably won't be seen. Camper, 13. Carves giant penis out of wood. Camper proceeds to run around laughing holding it on his crotch and such. Counselor laying on a bunk asks to see it. Still lying down. Counselor holds wooden penis vertical on crotch. Envy detected. Camper runs up and sits on the wooden dick while it's being held by the counselor. I put it in the incinerator. Day 1 at camp. We jumped out of the bus and ran around because we were so excited. My friend ran behind the bus and the bus ran him over. He was rushed off by ambulance. We didn't see him for another 3 months. In this thread, never sending my kids to camp, and I should have been a camp counselor when I was in high school. I worked at an 8-week sleepaway camp in the northeast and was working in a bunk of 7 and 8-year-olds. As the summer went along we lost a few counselors due to the fact our campers were the devil's spawn and only 6 or 7 years old, so us remaining counselors were spread thin. And one day in the span of 10 minutes when we didn't have a counselor in the bunk, I'm walking back and all the kids are running out of the bunk screaming about how one of the campers, M6, put his dick in another kid's mouth. M7. This is an all boys camp too. And when the camper was later asked why he let the other kid put his dick in his mouth, the kid's response was because they dared me to after long lashings from the director and owners and what I assume was some long talks with the kids. Parents, it was all swept under the rug and forgotten. Too long. Didn't read. A camper put his dick in another male camper's mouth.